Hello there, how you doing? Welcome to a Warhammer 40k Warpforge Warlord tier list. So in this video, it is currently December the 27th, 2023. We are going to take a snapshot in time and look at every single Warlord in the game, and we're going to rate them on this 4-tier system. So S is awesome. It's a Warlord you want to be playing right now. It's likely to have one of the best abilities, and it's likely to really, that there's really good decks around it that you can obviously do well on ladder. A means that it's a good Warlord, so this means that it's got a really solid ability, that you can definitely build decks that are good around it, and that it probably transcends metas as being a good card. B are for the kind of situational cards. So these are warlords that are potentially, you can build very specific decks around, and they can do alright in those contexts, but they're not necessarily one that you can always guarantee a good deck around. So they're a bit more situational. They might depend on what the enemy meta is, etc, etc. And C, quite frankly, just means that the warlord sucks. The ability is no good. It's very difficult to make them work in terms of decks. So let's dive right in. So the first one we are going to talk about is our Abidan. So Abidan the Spoiler actually got a really big buff. I said last season that Abidan sucked, and I believe he did. But this season he has, as well as maintaining his ability to give a Chaos Pact, he now obviously can heal himself for 2. So it gives him something to do on those more passive turns. And honestly, I actually think Abidan is... I actually think he's... I'm going to say good, because I think he's kind of still between situational and good. But I can tell you now, because I've literally tracked a lot of statistics from my games this season, that Abidan is up there in the meta. As in, what will you play the most on ladder? You'll play Ghazghkull, you'll play Abidan, and you'll play Galen. That's what my stats are showing. So people are at least enjoying him. I do think that we're still yet to find the very best decks with Abidan and to make the best use of his new ability, but he's probably gone from sucks to somewhere between top of situational and bottom of good for me. I'm going to give him the benefit of doubt and say good, but let me know in the comments if you disagree with any of this. Now, we'll stick with the Chaos Warlords for now. Last season I said that Syer sucked as a Warlord, and honestly guys, he still sucks for me. I know that there are some pretty good players who actually prefer Syer, but his ability's been random. He's still what's killing this guy. I mean, if he only could choose one of his 3 abilities, it would immediately transform how he's used. And I'm not quite sure why the Ultramarines get a bit of similar Psyker ability where they can choose 3, and they can choose, and then this guy can't. I'm not quite sure why it has to be random. Yeah, it's really holding him back. He's not going to get out of this category whenever he's got this same problem. And then finally we have Haken, and I think I'm going to say that this guy is situational. I'm tempted to say he's good this season only because orcs have been meta, and in a way where orcs are meta with things like scarabs that are the counter to orcs, I would actually say that this guy is good. He's good in that meta. But do I think that he's good enough to be good all times? I think you've got to think about his ability. His ability is not good every turn, right? It is absolutely good in certain situations, and then in others it's not. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, he basically does blast, gives himself blast 2, so he can clear out grots and hordes of things. So again, it's not something that's good every turn, which is why I'm going to keep him in situational. So that's where I think the Chaos currently sit. Let's now talk about the Eldar. Now, first of all, Ilyak got a buff, and his buff was that he now gives Shuriken basically to everything. So Shuriken 1 to not just himself but everything on the board, and I think in theory that is pretty good. I still don't think this guy is good, and I'm really I'm really debating whether he's situational or whether he just still sucks. And I think he's still the worst one of the Eldar lords, unfortunately. Shuriken is a good ability, but it's very situational. And he does have 40 health. I'm tempted to say that this guy probably sits at the very bottom of situational. I don't... Oh, is he situational or does he just suck? I'm going to put him at the bottom of situational for now. I might come back to him. Now, I said that Keltok was actually the best of the three last season, and I had him in good. And I actually think he is still a good warlord. I think he's in a decent faction right now. But I don't think I actually think he's gone down a little bit from where he was last season. And I actually think that Galen now is the Eldar. He is the Eldar, or she, I don't know, is it he or she? I think it's a he. But he's definitely the best leader, for sure. Because we're seeing a lot of Galen this season, and the Tempo Eldar do pretty good against Orcs. As in, you know, they're competitive. You could easily get a 50-50 win rate against the Orcs. And they had a pretty good deck anyway last season, but that tempo is what seems to matter most, and that's what Galen's ability to always put a Storm Guardian out. That's what Galen gives you. I still think Keltok got a very good ability. It gives you good hand management. So, I mean, for example, I built a Wraith Knight deck this season. If you've not seen that, go and check that out on my YouTube video around Keltok, and I thought Keltok was the best leader for that. And you can still build that late game control if you want to really guarantee Spirit Stones, a deck based on Spirit Stones. He's probably the best leader, but I do think right now that Galen is slightly more powerful. Okay, so moving on to the Tyranids. So unfortunately, I really tried to make the Tervagon work, and unfortunately, I have to say he still sucks. And it's sad because, you know, the idea of his ability in many ways is it's kind of like one of my favorite play styles. I kind of really want this guy to work. The idea of kind of like slowly grinding and kind of outvaluing your opponent, and then late game out resourcing them. I think that's a great concept, but just doesn't work at the minute. It's the gaunts aren't particularly great, and it's just proving to be too slow. So I would say that Tervagon still currently sucks. I tried this season to have a run with Tervagon, and I did great in practice mode, but it was with actual real human competitors where I had the problem and barely won a game. Now I'd say that Neurothrop is in a much better position. Last season I had Neurothrop as good. Do I still think is he a good warlord? Is he a good warlord? I'm going to say... this is another tough one. It's so between good and situational. I would say he's not the problem. I think with the better cards, this guy is good. The main reason why he's good is that he is good every turn, really. Like, the flexibility... He's one of the more flexible warlords, and the flexibility that it has to either ping for damage, almost Imatech style, or to defend and heal something up, and combining that with things like Synapse, it is actually a really good ability. He's got the standard 2-2 in his stats, so he can trade effectively. I would say he's towards the bottom end of good right now. However, the Swarmlord, I would actually say the Swarmlord is higher. And now, last season I had him situational, but I actually think that you know, the Swarmlord the Swarmlord is actually better because, first of all, he has the 3 attack. I know obviously the downside is the 1 range attack, but it does mean that he can trade with units that no other Lord can trade with. And in addition, he's obviously got the 40 health, and on top of that, his Warlord ability is actually really good. The problem he's got the problem that Ghazghkull and Abidan had last season, which is that on the first turn it can't do anything. And often with Swarmlord, you're not trying to use his ability early on. However, when you do use it, give him +1 health, +1 melee attack, and +1 range attack on a Synapse creature, which is basically giving that 3 times. That's actually really, really powerful. So, I don't know. They're very close to each other, these two, to be honest. I keep going back and forth. Sometimes I think maybe Neurothorpe's better. Sometimes I think Swarm Mode's better. But I do think that ability to kind of grow your units every single turn is a very powerful ability. I think this season I'm going to say Swarmlord's just above, and also we know that the best Tyranny player on ladder who has hit #1, he does run Swarmlord primarily as well. So maybe for Shimizu I'll put him slightly above Neurothorpe. But I am really I think it's a toss up a coin who's better in those two. Okay, so let's move on to the Necrons. So the Necrons, we have Nemar. Now Nemar, he kind of sucks. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, you know, I've kind of got one deck where he's pretty good, which was my Ghost Axe deck, and I was winning with that deck, and it's worth going and checking out that video. It's a really fun deck, and it's about the only deck that I can think of where he actually has any kind of relevant synergy. I mean, it's questionable whether Imatech would be better in that deck, or indeed Oricon, because they're both such good leaders. But at least Nemar has some synergy there. Outside of that, it's really not very good. It's not comparable to Galen, which a lot of people do. Galen does put out a token unit, a Storm Guardian every turn, but the problem is that the Spirit Stone that you get from the Storm Guardian is always going to be valued the same, whereas Remnant's tokens are not all valued the same. The Remnant token of a Lich Guard is not the same as a Tyranid as a Necron warrior, and your opponent knows that. So he can just, if you've got a Necron Remnant, warrior Remnant, they just ignore it, because if you want to waste resources, you know, rising a Necron warrior, they're probably laughing, going, "Be my guest," whereas they'd never do that with a Lich Guard. So for that reason, I'm going to still, unfortunately, sadly say he sucks. You could make an argument that he's bottom of situational, especially because the deck that I built him in, it was quite a good deck. But I would say that overall, he needs something. I'd like to see something change with this guy. Imatech is still an awesome Warlord. I think that last season I had him in good, and I've almost got this the wrong way around in a way. I still think Imatech is very powerful. He's 40 health. He can heal every turn, there's only him and Abidan that can do that, and the ability to then ping whilst doing that every single turn is very powerful. The other thing that makes Imatech incredibly powerful is that one of the Necron themes is I've completely gone blank, but it's the ability. God, it's the ability. Artifice, there we go. I was trying to I could not find the word for the life of me. For the love of God. Artifice. What Artifice means is it triggers an ability every time that you play a stratagem. And so obviously Imatech providing that stratagem synergizes with that in addition to his other things. So in Necrons, that type of ability is even more powerful. So I think the other thing that makes Imatech very good is he is part of one of the best control decks in the game. So his stats, his ability, all plays into control beautifully. So I do think he is probably the bottom end of awesome, but he is awesome. And then we've got Oricon. I honestly think Oricon is it's like top of good, because Oricon has like this amazing feel-good ability which lets you dig into the deck and basically look at 3 cards and then put one of those cards to the top. So it's kind of like deck management, similar to Keltalk, although Keltalk actually puts a card in your hand immediately. That's one of the advantages there. Yeah, it really puts you in control with Oricon. The problem is the ability is not gaining you any tempo, right? And tempo is really big in this game, and so Imatech does give you that. And so I think he's slightly less. He's also obviously 5 less health as well. Okay, so that is the Necron. So now we're going to go into the Ultramarines, and the Ultramarines last season were pretty dominant. I had Manius Calgar as the best, the most awesome leader in the game. Why? Because he's 40 health and he draws a card, and I place a lot of value in card games on drawing cards, and I still do. I still think that Manius is an awesome Warlord, and the only thing that's changed really is the cards around him have got way worse. And so, do I think he is still an awesome Warlord? I actually do. I don't I can understand relegating Manius, but at the end of the day, as a Warlord, he's got 40 health and he's got one of the best abilities in the game. And he's, for me, still an awesome Warlord. I don't think the faction is awesome. I think the card buff nerfs went too far and they've really hurt Ultramarines. But Manius Calgar as a Warlord, for me, is still awesome. Then we have Vara Targarius, and I think Targarius is a good Warlord. I think he's definitely obviously struggled and slipped a little bit since since the cards got hurt. But one of the things that the Ultramarines have kind of pivoted to is going down more of a vehicle route, and so one of the bonuses of Targarius is he can draw stratagems, and that means he can get the battlefield supremacy, which makes all your vehicles cheaper. So that's something that makes him pretty good. I do think though, with the 35 health and not like Calgar just draw through your deck, I don't think it's quite as good. So I think he's a really solid Warlord, and he's going to be good again. There's going to be good decks for him in future. I think he's really solid. If you've got him in your collection, be very, very happy as an Ultramarine player. He's a good Warlord. And then obviously we have Uriel, and I think Uriel is situational. He should, in theory, should be pretty good. I kind of think he should be decent this season again with a kind of swarm dynamics of scarabs and grots. There should be a deck with Uriel that works really well, and I haven't seen anyone come up with it yet. I feel like it's almost like his season to shine. But again, is that ability good every single turn? No, it's not, and that's why I'm putting him in situational. But he's certainly not a sucky Warlord, in my opinion. So on to the Orcs. So then we've got Boss Zagstruck. I think Zagstruck is also quite situational. I don't think he sucks, and I don't think he's good right now either. I think to play Zagstruck over Grook and Ghazghkull, you've got to have a really good reason, because those two Warlords are very good. And so I would actually say that Zagstruck, for me, is situational. I think he's probably not. He's probably better than Eliak. I'm probably going to put him around there. I do think one day there's going to be a good aggro deck around this guy, and I'm looking forward to playing that, but I'm not sure that now is his time, and I think that his ability is good on some turns in the game, but again, not always. And of course that leaves our big two. Now last season, after Manius, I had Grook. I still think Grook is awesome. I think the synergy of the way you can deck build around this guy is absolutely fantastic. One of the best for that, actually. It's not just draw a card, it's draw a troop. And by drawing a troop, we can control that by how many troops we play in the deck. It has synergy with the Green Horde. It means that we thin the deck so that we're more likely to draw a stratagem on our normal card draw. There's so many subtle things to his ability that, for me, I think he's fantastic. The only thing negative to say against him is that, he's a little bit squishy. And again, it's generally a tempo loss to spend the 2 mana just to put a card in your hand. But in my Orc control deck, he's still superb, and I think he's still well positioned to be very good in future decks too. And for this season, last season, we had Ghazghkull as a situation. He was bottom of the situational, but this season he goes straight to the top of awesome. We can see that Ghazghkull is being played left, right, and centre on ladder. And we can also see in the top 10, top 20 players that Ghazghkull is if he's not being run, then someone's running something to beat him. So, being able to play 2 grots with essentially 4 health across 2 bodies every single turn is not something that any enemy Warlord can respond to effectively. Actually, with the exception of the Chaos one, Harkin, but most war bosses can't respond to that, and it makes Ghazghkull extremely powerful. It means that if he just kept playing his Warlord ability over the opponent playing theirs, that Ghazghkull would essentially win, and even against Harkin, because he's got more health. So yeah, he's gone straight to the top. He's outvaluing the other Warlords by quite a way, and he's a very, very powerful Warlord at the minute. So there you go, guys. That is my Warlord tier list for December. Hope that helps. Obviously this is subject to change as balance updates come. I'm hoping we're going to get another one in January, so I'll make sure to update this next month when those changes come in. So be sure to subscribe to the channel so you get the notification and you can keep up to date with all the meta snapshots and with the tier list. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll speak to you soon.